I just stop my clients from making a huge mistake. I have this client that I've known for a while. They own a few rental properties that I not only help them secure, but also help them find good tenants. Recently, due to the housing demand, the rental prices in the GTA have gone up considerably. And due to rent control, landlords cannot increase rents for existing tenants beyond the rent increase guideline, which is 2.5% for 2023. So my client asked me if they can evict the current tenant so that they can get a new tenant that would pay much more. Yes, it is possible to find a tenant that would pay much more, but I advised my client that it would be in their best interest to not do so. Now, why did I talk myself out of a commission check? Hey everyone, it's Gourav Khatri and I help people buy, sell and invest in real estate all over the GTA. And in today's video, I'm going to go over when it makes sense to evict a tenant and what you can do about it. So let's get to it. The law. As per the Residential Tenancies Act in Ontario, you can't just evict a tenant because you want more money. If the tenant is paying their rent on time, abiding by the rules and regulations, not performing any criminal activities, and not destroying the property, then you don't really have a valid reason to evict the tenant unless you or your immediate family, such as your children, want to move into the property. Even in those cases, you can only justify eviction if you are going to be occupying the property for at least a year. If you don't and the tenant finds out, they can complain to the landlord and the tenant board, which can result in you being heavily penalized. When you evict a tenant, you're required to provide them with a Form N12, which states the reason for eviction, along with providing the tenant at least 60-day notice. Additionally, you're also required to find the tenant a property suitable to them or provide them with 1 month's rent. Eviction problems. Evicting a tenant is not as easy as it may sound. A lot of the tenants are well educated about their rights, and some tend to take unfair advantage of the legal system. Once they receive a notice of eviction, some bad tenants just stop paying rents, and some just refuse to move out even if the landlord is not acting in bad faith. Sure, you can go to the landlord and tenant board to get these tenants evicted, but the courts are fully backed up and it's taking an average of 6 to 8 months to get the first hearing. One of my clients is in a similar situation. His tenants have stopped paying rent and are refusing to move out. After waiting for 8 months, he had his first hearing just a few weeks ago. However, that hearing resulted in nothing because the tenants managed to get an extension stating that they did not have anyone representing them. Meanwhile, my client has been waiting for them to move out so that his daughter can move in with her family. Until then, they're paying out of pocket so that she can rent another place. Counting money. Honestly, it's not always the tenants that are to blame. The law favors the tenants so much because landlords can be just as shady. A couple months back, I helped a tenant save $300 a month because her landlord wanted more money due to the fact that rental prices had gone up. She was paying $2,400 a month and the landlord now wanted $2,750 a month. I explained to her what her rights were as a tenant, and instead of a $350 increase, we were able to bring that down to a $60 increase with a 90-day notice. If you're a landlord watching this, I'll tell you exactly why I talk my clients out of evicting tenants just for the sake of money. Let's use the same tenant situation as an example. With a $350 increase in rent, the landlord would now be making an extra $4,200 a year. On the other hand, in order to evict the tenant, it would cost him 1 month's rent, which is $2,400, along with another 1 month's rent plus HST that he would pay to his realtor to find him a tenant at the new price. So that's $2,750 plus 13% HST, which is $3,107, which then totals to $5,507. So basically, in order to make an extra $4,200 a year, the landlord would be spending $5,507. Not to mention the trouble you may get into if the tenant does go to the landlord and tenant board. Additionally, there is no way of knowing if this new tenant would be as good as the old one. My job as a realtor is to protect my client's best interests, and that's why I go over scenarios like this with them all the time to help them make better decisions. If you're liking this video so far, please make sure to give me a quick thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to keep getting updates on my latest content on a regular basis. When to evict. Sometimes you may just need to evict a tenant no matter what. These are tenants that stop paying rent, are not obeying the rules and regulations, destroy your property, perform criminal activities, etc. In those cases, it just makes sense to spend that extra money with the lawyers and start the eviction process no matter how long it takes. If you genuinely need the property for yourself or your immediate family, or in fact if you're thinking about selling your property to a buyer who may be purchasing it to live in it for themselves, then they may need a vacant possession of the property because they don't want to go through the headache of evicting the tenant. In those cases, you should talk to the tenant and get a definite date of them moving out, even if it means having to pay them 1 month's rent. How to evict. You should never sour your relationships with tenants because when time comes, they can make your life miserable. If the relationship with your tenant is already on bad terms, then try to improve it. Having the tenants cooperate in the eviction process is in your best interest, unless you want to wait 6 to 8 months or even longer for the landlord and tenant board to evict them on your behalf. If the tenant does agree to vacate the property, make sure to get it from them in writing. When looking for a new place, the tenant may need references from previous landlords, so be available to provide them when needed. Additionally, try to cooperate with them in case they need more time to find a place. If you're trying to sell the property, or if the tenant is vacating and you're looking for new tenants, then you may need to organize showings from time to time. In that situation, you may need the tenant's full cooperation because you cannot enter the property without their permission. One of my realtor friends had a listing that was occupied by a tenant who was moving out in a month. This tenant was not on good terms with the landlord and thus made my friend's life hell. Because he only provided 1.5 hour time slots a day for showings, which had to be booked 24 hours in advance. And more than 50% of the showings were declined by the tenant because of some random excuse. My friend was patient and tried to work with what the tenant allowed. Eventually, they had to take down the listing and wait until the property was fully vacant to be shown at any time. By then, the market had slowed down and the prices had dropped, which then resulted in the property selling for $50,000 lower than what it could have a few weeks ago. Let me know in the comments if you need a copy of my latest guides that help you with the process of buying and selling a home.